Hello, driver's ed class. How are you guys doing today? So, we are going to be continuing chapter 4. We're moving on from right of way. Last week we talked about all sorts of different right of way situations and even a little bit of pedestrian right of way. And you might remember that our number one rule for pedestrian right of way is that anytime you as the driver of a vehicle are interacting with pedestrians, the rule is you should always yield to pedestrians. That's right, always yield to pedestrians. How do I make myself a little smaller here? There we go. One simple rule, always yield to pedestrians. So let's talk about some other scenarios that you might encounter as you drive. So at some point, probably not right away when you start driving, because right away when you start driving, you're going to be one of the slower vehicles on the roads, not one of the faster vehicles on the road. But at some point, you're going to want to pass another vehicle. And when the rules of the road book talks about passing, sometimes it's talking about exactly what you're thinking about right now, which is you're coming up behind another car and that car is slower and you want to go around them and pass them. Sometimes when the rules of the road book talks about passing another car, it means you're coming towards each other. It's so hard to do looking into a camera. You're coming towards each other and you're going to pass by each other on a road. What we're talking about today is primarily the first scenario. You're coming behind somebody and you want to go around them, all right? So anytime you are passing, there are 3 questions that you should ask yourself. Number 1, is it legal? We're going to talk today about when it's legal to pass, when it's not legal to pass, okay? So is it legal? Am I even allowed to pass right now? If the answer to that question is yes, then you move on to question 2. If the answer to question 1 is no, if it's not legal to pass right now, then you don't pass. It's that simple. All right, but if the answer to question number 1 is yes, it's legal, then you ask question number 2. Question number 2 is it safe to pass right now? It might be legal, but it might not be safe. Maybe the road isn't safe because there's snow on the road. Maybe there are cars coming, so it's not safe. Maybe you just feel like you can't see very well, so it's not safe, all right? So if the answer to is it legal is yes, and the answer to is it safe is yes, then you move on to question number 3. Is it actually beneficial? If you're coming home from Edwardsville to Staunton, you've already gone past D Camp, you're almost back to town, the car in front of you is only going a few miles an hour below the speed limit. Are you actually going to gain anything by passing them? Is it really beneficial? Is it worth the risk of making the pass? If the answer is no, then don't pass. The only way that you should pass, the only time that you should pass is if you can answer all 3 questions yes. If it's legal, if it's safe, and if it's beneficial, then go ahead and pass. Otherwise, don't pass. It's not worth it. Passing is inherently risky. It's added danger to pass someone. So don't do it unless you can actually answer those 3 questions yes. All right, so how in the heck do we answer the first question? Is it legal? Well, we got to know what the law is. So what's the law say about passing in Illinois? The law says that on a 2-lane highway, the left lane should be clearly visible. You're in the right lane, you should be able to clearly see the left lane. And that left lane has to be free of oncoming traffic, nobody coming towards you, and it's got to be for a distance great enough to permit passing. This is one of the really hard things to tell when you're a new driver. You look in that left lane and you're like, well, I see a car out there, but I have no idea whether they're far enough away for me to pass or not. I just can't tell. That's something that comes with experience, and that's part of why we have a permit phase. Don't be afraid to ask. Just ask mom and dad, or ask me when you're in the driver's ed car. Is it safe to pass right now? And we might very well say no, okay? But we might say yes too. And something that you can practice is you can practice when you're a passenger in a car, practice counting how many seconds it is from the time that you see a car out there to the time that they get to your car. You need a minimum of 10 seconds to safely pass someone. So if you see a car out there and you start counting 1001, 1002, 1003, you should be able to get to 1010 before that car gets to you. And that's the distance away that would be considered the minimum safe distance for you to pass. So that's something to know. By the way, quick little side note, it is not okay to speed while passing. Now, I know you're going to tell me, Mr. Smith, I've been in the car with my parents 1,000 times when they passed someone and they definitely went over the speed limit. You're right. That doesn't mean that's okay according to the law. The law says the speed limit is the speed limit. You don't get to exceed the speed limit just so that you can pass somebody. So you should just know. All right, when you're passing somebody, you're still supposed to follow the speed limit. More information about passing. Drivers should not turn back into the right-hand lane until they have the entire, let's try that again. Drivers shouldn't turn back into the right-hand lane until the entire vehicle they've just passed is visible in the rear view mirror. You got 3 mirrors on the car. You got the rear view mirror. That's the one up here. You got the side view mirror. That's the one out to the side. And you got the other side view mirror. That's the other one out to the side. So we're not talking about the side view mirrors that are outside the car. We're talking about that rear view mirror that's inside the car. The vehicle that you are passing, the entire vehicle should be visible in your rear view mirror. Got a little picture here of just that situation. So here you are, you're driving a car and you have just passed somebody, and now we can see that entire car in our rear view mirror. So we click our signal on and we move back into that lane. That's what you are supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to see that entire car in your rear view mirror. Especially you should be able to see both of their headlights before you move back into your own lane. That makes sure that you are fully around them. All right, so what are some other pieces of information about passing? Here we have come to my absolute least favorite rule in the entire rules of the road book. This thing is just absolutely ridiculous, and let me explain to you why. Drivers must return to their lane before getting within 200 feet of an oncoming vehicle. 200 feet! I mean, that seems like a big distance, right? Like, what's an average vehicle take up? Maybe 20 feet, 25 feet, So you're talking about getting back in your lane at 10 times that distance of a vehicle. That seems like a lot of distance. But wait, how fast is a car traveling when they are traveling at 55 miles per hour? How many feet per second are they traveling? The answer is 81 feet per second. Now, most cars on the highway are not actually driving 55 miles per hour. You probably already know that. Most cars on the highway are traveling at more like 60 miles per hour. If you're a police officer and you're listening to this, you already know that. But most cars are traveling at 60 miles per hour. So at 60 miles per hour, you're traveling more like 86, 87, 88 feet per second. And someone that is passing another car, even though we know it's illegal to exceed the speed limit, oftentimes they are exceeding the speed limit. So the truth of the matter is 200 feet equates to just about 1 second. Because you're traveling at nearly 100 feet per second. The other car is traveling at nearly 100 feet per second. So this law says that you have to get back into your lane exactly 1 second before you hit the car coming towards you. That's cutting it way too close, people. If that's how close you're cutting it, you're going to die at some point, okay? No, it's got to be more than that. So this is a crazy rule. This rule basically says, hey, get back in your lane before you die. Okay. The driver of the vehicle being passed must not increase speed until the passing vehicle has completed its maneuver. If you are getting passed, oh my goodness, for some people, this is so tempting. Other people don't have a problem with this at all, but some people, you're like, what, you're going to pass me right now? Really? Seriously? You think you're going to pass me? And they hit the gas. They're like, I don't want to get passed. You can't do that. That's illegal. You can't speed up just because someone is passing you. It's dangerous. It's risky. It's putting people's lives on the lines. You're not allowed to do it. It's a bad move. You just got to fight that feeling back. I know we're all competitive. I'm a super competitive guy myself. I don't like to lose, but guess what? Driving a car is not a race unless you're in NASCAR. If you want to be in NASCAR, go be in NASCAR. You're not in NASCAR when you're driving on a road. Don't do it. Don't speed up. Just let them pass you. Swallow your pride. Just take a deep breath. It's going to be all right. It's not going to hurt your life at all if someone passes you. It's okay. Just let them go. It is against the law to flash turn signals as a courtesy or do pass signal to other drivers. I don't see this very much anymore. I used to see this a lot back in the early 90s. This seems to be something that has kind of died out, and that's a good thing, okay? But it used to be that cars would sometimes, hey, they could tell someone's wanting to pass them. They can see that there's nobody coming, so they would flip their turn signal on to let the car behind them know, hey, it's all right. It's clear. Go ahead, pass me. Don't do that, all right? Let the person that wants to pass make their own decision. Don't tell them what to do. Okay, so whether there's someone riding a bike on the side of the road or someone walking or jogging or walking their dog or, whatever the case might be, you have to leave at least 3 feet between you and them. That's the minimum. It should be more than that, okay? Let me tell you, when I'm out running in the morning or if I'm on a family bike ride with my kids and my wife, if a car passes by and they're only 3 feet away, meaning I can almost reach my arm out and touch them, from my center line to the tips of my fingers, that's about 3 feet. If I can reach out and touch them, that's a little close, all right? I'm freaking out a little bit. So more than 3 feet is better, okay? Make sure you're leaving space between you and the pedestrians or people riding bikes. Passing on the right. Okay, so there are times that this is okay and times that this is not okay. Never allowed on the shoulder of a road. So you've got the roadway, that's the paved part, and then there's oftentimes a white line marking it, or sometimes there's not a white line marking the edge of the road. But once you get past that white line or past the edge of the pavement, you're onto what's called the shoulder. Okay, you think of the road as your head, and what's past your head is your shoulder. Okay, so you're onto the shoulder of the road. Are you allowed to pass on the shoulder? No, you're not. Okay, never allowed to pass on the shoulder. You are allowed to pass on the right when there are multiple lanes of traffic in each direction. So you got 2 lanes of traffic going this way, 2 lanes of traffic going this way. Then you're allowed to pass in the right-hand lane. Okay, you got 2 lanes of traffic in your direction. There's somebody slow in the left lane. You can pass in the right lane. That's okay. And also at an intersection widened for this purpose. Sometimes there'll be an intersection and they'll widen that intersection out so that if there's a slower car on the left that's maybe turning left and you're going straight or turning right, the intersection's been widened so you can get around them. Okay, so those are some examples of times when you can pass on the right. Passing in a 2-lane, 2-way roadway is not allowed. Hey, get back down here. No, that's not what I want to do. Passing on a 2-lane, 2-way roadway is not allowed in a no passing zone. So how do you know that's a no passing zone? Well, there's a solid yellow line in the middle on your side of the middle, okay? Solid yellow line, or you'll see a no passing zone sign or a do not pass sign, and we'll talk about exactly what those signs look like when we get to chapter 9, I think. Okay, I'm sure already know what they look like, but we'll talk about them when we get there. You're also not allowed to pass on a hill or a curve where it's not possible to see oncoming vehicles. Now, you might say, well, why would they even put this in here? I mean, if it's a hill or a curve where you can't see oncoming vehicles, wouldn't there be a solid yellow line telling me not to pass? Maybe if you're on a highway. What if you're on a country road? Country roads don't always have lines on them. They don't have yellow lines or white lines. They're just a rock road or a oil and chip road or whatever. There's not lines. So you have to know these rules. If there's a hill or a curve and you can't see if there are vehicles coming, you can't pass. That's a rule. All right, you also cannot pass within 100 feet of an intersection. How do I know what 100 feet of an intersection is? Well, if you're in town, you shouldn't be passing anyway because you're always within 100 feet of an intersection. But if you're in town, 100 feet equates to about a half a city block. If you're out in the country, then, it's that same distance. You just don't have any blocks to measure it by, but about 100 feet. Okay, so you can't pass close to an intersection or a railroad crossing or a bridge or a viaduct or a tunnel. Basically, anything that's going to complicate the situation, don't pass, don't do it. You also cannot pass when a vehicle has stopped at a crosswalk. I wonder why a vehicle would be stopped at a crosswalk. Maybe they're waiting on a pedestrian. So should you be passing them if they're waiting on a pedestrian? No, absolutely not. You're also not allowed to pass in a construction zone. Why? You're supposed to be looking for construction workers so that you don't hit them and kill them. You're not allowed to pass in a school zone. Why? You're supposed to be looking for kindergartners so you don't hit them and kill them. You're not allowed to pass when a school bus has stopped to load or discharge passengers. Why? Because little Johnny's going to get out of the bus and his beautiful drawing that he drew at school that day is going to blow out of his hands and it's going to go flipping across the road into the middle of the road. He's going to go chasing after it because he wants mom to hang it on the refrigerator. You're going to be passing the bus and end of little Johnny. So no, you can't pass a school bus. Now, how do you know if a school bus is loading or unloading? I don't like that word discharge, but that means unloading. So they're loading or unloading passengers. How do you know? Well, the stop sign will be out. The red lights will be flashing at the top of the bus. Okay, that's how you know. You must drive on the right half of the roadway except when passing another vehicle moving in the same direction on a 2-lane highway. Okay, so the right half of the roadway, if it's a 2-lane highway, that means you got 1 lane going in each direction. You've got to drive in the right-hand lane. But if you're going to be passing, you're allowed to temporarily use the left-hand lane. That's what we've just been talking about for the last several slides. You're also allowed to use the right half of the, when passing another vehicle moving in the same direction on a 2-lane highway, or an interstate highway, or a controlled freeway. So when you get on the interstate, you've got multiple lanes going in both directions. So you've got, just on your side of the road, you've got the right lane and you've got the left lane. Well, normally you're supposed to be in the right lane, but you're allowed to use the left lane to pass another car. Other times when you're allowed to not drive on the right half of the roadway. Other times are when there's a blockage that makes it necessary to drive to the left of the center line. So let's say you're just driving down Deneen in Staunton. Well, Deneen's not a great example because it's got 2 lanes. Well, that's fine. Yeah, right. Let's say you're driving down Deneen and you're in the right-hand lane. But somebody's trash can fell out into the street. Okay, it was a windy day. They had the trash sitting out. The trash truck came and picked it up. Now the can's empty. The wind blows the can over. The can's laying in the right-hand lane. You can switch into the left-hand lane and go around it. That's totally fine. All right. Even if it wasn't a 2-lane one-way street, if it was 1 lane in each direction, you can still move over into the other lane. But the second sentence here is hugely important in that situation. Drivers may drive on the left after yielding to oncoming traffic. I can't tell you how many times I see people mess this up. If there's something blocking their lane, they scoot over into your lane and keep driving and make you stop. That's not the way it works. If there's something blocking your lane, you stop, wait for the car coming by you to go by, and then you go around the blockage. The car that belongs in that lane gets use of that lane first. Don't mess that up, people. It drives me crazy. Other times that you are allowed to not drive on the right-hand side of the road. If there's a roadway divided into 3 marked lanes of traffic. So if you have 3 lanes going in your direction, then you're not supposed to be in the left lane, but you can be either of the right two. The left lane is reserved for passing. Either of the right two are totally fine to drive in. On a one-way street with two or more lanes of traffic, like we just talked about in Deneen, on Deneen, you really don't need a reason to be in the left lane. You can be in either of those lanes. It's a one-way street. It's fine, okay? Drivers must drive on the right half of the roadway, except, so some more situations there, when approaching a stationary emergency vehicle. You got a police car that's got someone pulled over. You are not supposed to pass in that lane right next to them. You are supposed to scoot over. But there again, if there's anybody coming towards you, you have to wait till this car goes by, and then you can scoot over whichever direction it is here. You can scoot over and go on by the police car. When roadway construction is located in close proximity to the right lane or right shoulder. So again, if there's road construction, if there's a stationary police officer, any of those reasons are reasons to scoot over into the other lane. By the way, they expanded this law a few years ago. It used to be called Scott's Law. Now it's called the Move Over Law, and they expanded it beyond police cars and ambulances and fire trucks. Now it also includes tow trucks. It also includes any regular civilian vehicle that's on the side of the road with their flashers on. So if you have to pull over on the side of the road for some reason, turn your flashers on, and people legally have to move over so they don't hit and kill you. Lane usage. When driving on an interstate highway or full access controlled highway, a driver may not drive in the left lane except when passing another vehicle. So when you're on the interstate, you are not allowed to be in the leftmost lane unless you are actively passing someone. You can't just hang out in the left lane. The left lane is reserved for passing, and it's reserved for emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicles like a police officer or ambulance or fire truck that are on their way to a call or taking someone to the hospital, they get in that left lane, they flip their lights on, and they book it. And we're supposed to stay out of that lane unless we're actively passing someone. What are some other reasons that you might move into the left lane? Poor road conditions. Maybe there's a massive snowstorm and the right lane is totally covered, but the left lane is in better shape. You can drive in the left lane. An obstruction or a hazard, there was a tire blowout in the right lane and the left lane's open. You can move over into the left lane for that. Simple traffic congestion. Sometimes there is so much traffic, it is not practical for everybody to be in the right lane, and some people are going to just have to be in the left lane. Yielding to emergency and construction vehicles, same kind of idea. There's an emergency or construction vehicle on the right, you move over to the left lane. Some additional rules, just things that we need to be aware of. Slow vehicles must always use the right-hand lane. Anytime there are multiple lanes of traffic for one direction, slow vehicles must always use the right-hand lane. Weaving from lane to lane to move faster than the traffic flow is unlawful. You see this in cities a lot. Some joker thinks that they're just going to drive way faster than the rest of traffic, and they're zipping in and out of traffic and crossing lanes, and that's illegal. I don't care if they're using their turn signal or not. If they're weaving in and out of traffic, that's illegal, even if they're doing everything else right. They're probably breaking the speed limit, so that's also illegal, but they'll also get a ticket for this. It is unlawful to drive across median strips, such as unpaved strips or median barriers. So you're on the interstate and you're like, hey, I just need to turn around. I'm just going to take my four-wheel drive truck and drive through the grass and turn around. Well, guess what? That's illegal. Okay, it's also illegal to use those turnarounds that say authorized vehicles only. You're not authorized. You can't do it. What if you're driving down the interstate and you miss your exit? And you're like, well, I know I can't turn around in the median because Mr. Smith told me I can't. I know I can't turn around in the little authorized vehicles only spot because Mr. Smith told me I'm not authorized. I'll just pull over on the shoulder, pop this car in reverse, and back it on up. No, that's illegal also. You're driving another 10 miles to the next exit, and you're going to turn around there. Sucks to be you. Sorry. It's just a bad day. Tough luck. Get over it. A driver may not back up on other roadways unless it is done safely and does not interfere with other vehicles. By the way, controlled access roadways are basically just your interstates. They won't allow things like mopeds on them or bicycles or farm equipment, things like that. Those are your controlled access roadways. Pretty much all other roadways are not controlled access. Anyone can use them, okay? So even a regular highway. You're not allowed to back up on a regular highway or a country road or anything like that unless it can safely be done in a way that does not interfere with other vehicles. So you got to make sure it's clear and that you're not going to get in anybody's way. It's really not a good idea at any point. You should just turn the vehicle around somehow. A driver or passenger may not open doors on the side of the vehicle on which traffic is moving unless it can be done safely and without interfering with a vehicle or bicycle. Oh, okay. So you're parking on the side of the road and you're going to get out and go into your house or your buddy's house or whatever. What they're saying is before you open your door, you need to look in the mirror, you need to look over your shoulder, and then you open the door. The book even encourages you to use your right hand to reach across your body and open the door, because by using your right hand, you naturally turn, and now you can look back behind you to make sure there's nobody coming. What you definitely don't want to do is open your door up and there's a car right there and boom, it just takes the door right off your car. That's a bad day. Or you open your door up and here was somebody riding a bicycle and now you just opened your door and they just rode their bicycle right into your door. That might sound funny. It's not funny to the person on the bicycle. Okay. So yeah, just something to be aware of. Signaling. You have to use a turn signal. You have to signal before you turn. If you are in town, that's business or residential. Basically, if you're in town, you've got to put your turn signal on 100 feet before you get to the intersection. That's about a half a block. We talked about that earlier. If you're outside of town, it's about 200 feet. General rule of thumb is we're looking at that 3 to 5 second window. So 3 to 5 seconds before you turn, put your turn signal on. That's the general rule. It's a lot easier to tell that than it is to tell actual feet. So 3 to 5 seconds. Turn signals, just in case you're not aware. It's that little stick. It's always on the left side of the steering column. If you want to turn right, you push the stick up. If you want to turn left, you push the stick down. One way to think about that, if you think about, this is some little weird magnet thing that my kids have. It's actually kind of cool. It's got like, you can make your own math problems on it. But anyway, let's pretend that this is a turn signal. If you take that turn signal that's on the side of the steering wheel and you rotate it up, well, if you push it to the right, it's for a right turn. If you push it to the left, it's for a left turn. Now, if you take that stick and just rotate it back down to the side, it's still the same thing. Push it to the right, it's a right turn. Push it to the left, it's a left turn. If your turn signal is not working or you're riding a bicycle, you should use hand signals. So hand signals are, if it's a right turn, you always use your left arm. You stick it out the window. If it's a right turn, you put your arm straight up. Put your arm straight up at a 90-degree angle. If it's a left turn, your arm goes straight out to the side. If it's a slower stop, it's down. Okay? You can't just drive around doing this all the time. You are legally required to get your turn signals fixed. But in a pinch, you can use this. And that's the end of our lecture today. So, hey, I hope you guys learned something today about passing. I hope that you remember the 3 rules. Rule number 1 is it legal? Rule number 2 is it safe? Rule number 3 is it beneficial? If you answer no to any of those questions, don't pass, all right? That's the big takeaway from today, all right? So if nothing else, I hope you learned that. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. But even if you didn't, just like my favorite professor, Dr. Phillips, used to say, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. We'll see you.